Hey everyone, it's Dr. Jennifer Benjamin here with the Philadelphia Child and Family Therapy Training Center. I have a super important topic for us to talk about today, Ecomaps. I honestly believe they are the most underutilized assessment that any practitioner could use to promote the well-being of their identified client, the youth and the family they're working with. And the first thing I thought about when I consult or I train or supervise is often you hear either this budding fear or this experience from the practitioner that the family needs that practitioner as a resource, and that they serve such a purpose in the family's life. We are supposed to start discharge from day one of treatment. And so it's hard to discharge when we feel this pressure or this sense that the family needs us as a resource. And this is where ECOMAPs are just this unbelievable gift that we can give families. I have an example ECOMAP that I use with some of my families, right? A lot of you might be thinking about Ann Hartman's seminal article talking about ECOMAPs and social work. And ultimately, what I have discovered is that every family needs to access this information a little differently, whether it's they're drawing it together, like my family has done. And yes, my family has an ECOMAP, wouldn't want to be a hypocrite, or if it's putting it in columns or drawing it technically, whatever way the information is most accessible and useful and valuable, do it in that format, but do an ECOMAP. Sometimes I share the ECOMAP with the family right up front. Sometimes I'm collecting information and not sharing it with the family until it's more full. Here's the big thing I need you guys to realize. We want to use the ECOMAP to create a snapshot of the social ecology, the system they're embedded in, so we can understand what's happening in it. And the way the ECOMAP looks now at admissions should evolve when you get to discharge. So what would be things that would look different potentially? So one, how they're engaged back in their community, where they have a sense of belonging. We would want to see an increase in natural supports and a decrease in formal supports or professionals, or a decrease in frequency, or how they use those professional relationships. And notice when you look at the ECOMAP, all of these things on there, at the very bottom here is where I put formal supports and professionals. Because there's so much more to people than the professionals. And really, our job is to work ourselves out of being needed. So I'm hoping as you're listening, your brain's already starting to go, oh my gosh, I've got to do an ECOMAP, change my life. That's how I feel about them. So let's just break them down a little bit more. So at the top, you can see it says tracking strengths and resources. And as you identify things to go into your ECOMAP, I want you to think about what gives energy or is supportive, what takes energy. And that doesn't mean it's bad, right? Because for sometimes contributing is helpful. So, or sometimes things take energy in a way that is unhealthy. But this way we get to figure that out and what those things are. And everybody's brains or gears are probably turning, and think about then how this creates opportunity for conversation with people like, oh, Is that healing for you to contribute? Or is it something where it's unhealthy and it's taking energy from you? What do you think happens for you that you continue to engage in that people, place, or thing? How does that connect to your history? Where did you learn to engage in that way? Right? We start thinking about what's going on relationally. So brilliant, right? And then finally, sometimes there's things in our lives we're unsure about, or maybe they give and take energy, but we just don't know if it, again, it's a contributing thing and it's reciprocal, or if it's unhealthy. And this creates space to talk about those things. As we move to the next component of the ECOMAP, that it talks about identifying not just the client, but the family as a whole, the caregivers and the siblings separate. Because when we think about family structure, often there's a complementary negative interactional pattern that the pattern keeps playing out. So it's not just about understanding the client, it's about the family as a whole and the individuals in the system, and how are they also going to get increased opportunity to get their needs met, or work on healing or developing relationships with people, places, and things that they don't currently have or wish they had. Why not, right? Additionally, in that first column, we're writing down strengths and abilities. Now, please, 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 do not write things like likes video games, enjoys drawing. Think about where that strength comes from, if you think it's a strength, or what is it about that thing that is a strength within the child, right? So if they like drawing, is it that they have a strong imagination, or when they look at things, they can see the beauty, even when, the flower is struggling, it sees the beauty in the flower, right? Like what is it? So we want to connect the strengths that people have, or their abilities, with their lived experiences, their highs and their lows, whatever those are. And a lot of times people say, Jen, honestly, it's really hard to think of strength words. Well, why don't you keep a list near your ECOMAP, so that way, maybe it's one of these words, maybe it's not. But I just want to validate, in my study of trying to be more strength-based, sometimes it's hard to do because that is not how we're socialized. We have to develop the ability to look at people as capable, competent, and caring, instead of showing up first with the critical eye. So you can see there's some friendly reminders on here that are always helpful to me. Connect strengths with lived experiences, both the highs and the lows. And also a useful reminder at the bottom, use an experience from the critical events timeline as a tool to promote the primary targets. So often what we find in doing the ECOMAP, buckle up, make it even more valuable and useful, is that as we uncover intentionally strengths and abilities, people start to have an eye and look for them. And as they come up, we can incorporate those into the treatment that we have. This assessment tool allows us to treat every family as their own best resource for change. So as we continue to move through the assessment tool, you can see the categories that are available. Work, learning, volunteering in school covers an array of things that fall under this idea of occupation. That's because people are different places developmentally. So this way, we're thinking about everybody, not just in a rigid place of, do you have a job or not? Do you go to school or not? Because maybe they're struggling with going to school, but there is things that they're learning or working on or interested in. And again, we want to see what people are doing, not what they're not doing. We want to start seeing and acknowledging that effort. As we move to hobbies and groups activities, This one, I think, often connects to some of these extra areas below where I'm thinking about with families, like, are there people, places, and things that they want to try out that they think they might enjoy connecting with, but they're just not sure how it would fit in time wise, or they're not sure if they can afford it, or whatever the barrier is. Or maybe there's somebody there that they're uncomfortable with. I don't know. Or maybe something's happened historically and that blocks them. At least we're putting it out on the table, right? We're getting to talk about it and creating opportunity for something that is being looked at as a barrier to potentially be solved relationally. Then we're looking at friends, and you can see it says frequency and role. That is so important, everybody, okay? Because of technology, we can have access to friends in all different capacities, in person, not in person, FaceTime, email, snail mail. So make sure we are thinking about all of the people that are available and what role they may solve, because part of creating belonging and healing for a family is getting them out of the dislocation and helping them to think about the people and the places and the things, specifically the friends that may have an extra small, small, medium, large, extra large role in being an alliance for them in different moments. We've got to get people out of fracturing the truth out of shame and guilt, and give them friends where they can practice changing that hopeless narrative to learning how to ask for help, to learning how to face the unjustified shame, to take over that unwanted voice that calls them a burden, right? Giving them those people, those natural, informal supports where they can do that. Okay, family, super important column. Also helps with filling in some of our other family assessment tools, where we start thinking about extended family, family of origin, distant family. This may even be kin that we call family that aren't family. And again, whether it's supportive, takes energy, we're unsure, it's a place you contribute to, whatever it is, just understand it, right? Give the family space to explore it and discover. And finally, goals. Now, I think this section has been the sleeper column, let's call it. Because I think about, there's a treatment plan goal, right? It has to be measurable and observable and all that for the insurance company. But here, what do you want your goals of connecting and belonging to look like? What do you want it to look like for you, the family, in the community? Now, envision that you've done this at admissions. And during the course of treatment, if you're practicing ecosystemic structural family therapy, we are working on promoting, as I brought up before, those 4 primary targets of family functioning. And so as those things begin to shift, and remember, a little bit of change in structure gets a big change in symptomology. This ECOMAP will continue to evolve and become something the family developing and creating together. And what we would want to see, what I often see, is a decrease in formal supports and an increase in natural supports and connection in the community. Because when people are not dislocated and hiding in shame and blame and guilt, that means they're using their strengths and abilities to stay connected into the community, to ask for help, to utilize the resources available to them, and to function as no problem is too big for them to solve They become their own resource for change, right? It's like that Dr. Marion Lindblad Goldberg was onto something, right? So I hope that you have become a believer in this ECOMAP, just like I am and the training center is. And if you subscribe to our blog, you will get the password to access a copy of this ECOMAP, and you can go ahead and use it. And we'd love to hear from you about your use of the ECOMAP and how it's helping you to promote your practice. But also, I would encourage you to fill it out for yourself. Do one for yourself and your family. It's an eye-opening experience. So I guess I'll see you later on the socials. And until then, have a good day, y'all. Bye.